won't give up, no, I won't give in till I reach the end, and I'll start again. Though I'm on the lead, I wanna try everything. I wanna try even though I could fail. I won't give up, no, I won't give in till I reach the end, and I'll start again. Though I'm on the lead, I wanna try everything. I wanna try even though I could fail. Oh, 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 oh. Try everything. Oh, 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 oh. Try everything. Oh, 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 oh. Try everything. Oh, 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 oh. Look how far you've come. You filled your heart with love. Baby, you've done enough to cut your breath. Don't beat yourself up. Don't need to run so fast. Sometimes we come last, but we did our best. I won't give up, no, I won't give in till I reach the end, and I'll start again. Though I'm on the lead, I wanna try everything. I wanna try even though I could fail. I won't give up, no, I won't give in till I reach the end, and I'll start again. Though I'm on the lead, I wanna try everything. I wanna try even though I could fail. And I'll keep on making those new mistakes. And I'll keep on making them every day. Those new mistakes. Oh, 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 oh. Try everything. Oh, 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 oh. Try everything. Oh, 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 oh. Try everything. Oh, 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 oh. Try everything.
Hey everybody, welcome to Goots' Disney Pod. I am your host, Ray Goots, and we are in the year 2016. And I have Mick Thomas with me, and we're going to talk about Zootopia. What's up, buddy?
All right, man. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for doing the show, man. I wanted you for a while, but I wanted you to be one of the later movies, and it took me a year to finally get here. But we're here. We're in Zootopia. And,
Yeah, you know what I noticed when I sat down? Like this Lego Disney castle behind me is like it's not a plant. I'm in my son's room.
oh, he built that?
Yeah. He built it by himself. He's 10, but he has it like I think 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And he built all this. So I'm in his room, which just seems it's the quietest room in the house, and it's the only place where I can have a swivel chair. So this is a coincidence. This is not me like setting up like, look at me talking about Disney, and I happen to have this here.
Well, this is an audio podcast, but for people that we know the video, Mick's sitting in a room, and there's a giant Lego, a Magic Kingdom statue. Then on the shelf, he's got Chucky and Jason Funko Pops. So
Yeah.
you're basically raising the Goots. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah. He's a huge horror fan, man. A huge horror fan.
Mm-hmm.
He really is. Really is.
When I see those two things, I'm like, all right, this kid's got a. You should do my backyard show and then bring him so you can see all the decorations I have.
Oh, he'd love it. He'd love it.
Yeah.
I've seen your pictures. He would absolutely love it.
Yeah, you guys should come by.
He got in trouble not last year, the year before, for he did a book report, but he basically did a whole synopsis on Friday the 13th.
Well, I think that's the type of creativity that I think should be encouraged, and for some reason in schools they don't, and it's like, when kids think outside the box, those are the kids that create Google and Amazon, and they try to beat that out of you so often in schools.
Yeah, man, especially nowadays, and I always think back to if I'm stuck in a decision, right, about when it comes to parenting, like a parenting decision, not as in, no, you're not having ice cream for dinner, or obviously it's 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe you should have been in bed at a regular time, you got school in the morning, but like, should I let him do this or should I not? And then I look back at my childhood, about what did I do when I was a kid and how did it affect me? And I just go, fuck it, like I turned out fine in relation to horror movies, never affected me. As long as you watch it with him, You know what I mean? And laugh
Mhm.
at the parts that kind of might terrify him. You know, he's fine. Like he's a big Stephen King. His favorite movie of all time is The Shining.
Oh, that's great. That was the first movie I ever saw. I loved. That is a great movie. That's a good
No,
one for him.
go ahead. Sorry.
I said that's a good one for him to be a favorite of. My favorite is actually, well, I've just changed it. It used to be Clockwork Orange, but I realized I haven't really watched that movie in a long time, and I don't feel like watching it. So I
Yeah.
downgraded it, and now my favorite. I finally realized my true favorite movie of all time. It used to be number 2. Is the original Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, that's a beautiful movie, man. That
Mm-hmm.
was, I think, you don't realize that till you get older. Like that movie is so far ahead of its time.
Oh yeah.
Because like it had a black lead in there, and just weren't Hollywood wasn't doing that. You weren't putting like a black person as a lead movie, and they did that. It was great.
And also, it's basically Walking Dead, the movie.
Yeah,
And when Walking Dead became a huge hit, I'm watching this show, and I'm like, I would tell people, like, I would make people watch Dawn of the Dead. My friends would be like, oh, whatever. Zombies are slow. Who cares? Because nobody gave a fuck about zombies in the 90s.
right.
And I was like, this is a great movie. This could be a great TV, like a TV series. Or that fucking guy, Robert Kirkman, is a billionaire. And all he did was just steal George Romero's ideas.
Yeah, and you know what I saw, and that was a stage like where with zombie movies was kind of overdone, right? And I think they're over a movie. You know, a genre is overdone when they start making spoofs of it.
Or when Disney, I don't know if you saw Disney has a zombie musical movie.
They
Where a boy,
do.
yeah, it's called Zombies, but like there's like a dot. I don't know, but it's
Is that Disney's? Was that Disney?
Disney Channel, and it's a musical.
Oh, if it's on the channel, I don't know. I don't
but
watch
that's
the
how
channel.
you kind of know. Okay, the zombie is kind of dead. If Disney is like zombies.
Yeah. I mean, I watched the other night. A friend of mine in Ireland told me to watch it. I'm going to mess up the name of it, but I know you'll correct me. Train to.
But I know you're talking about Busan or something like
That's
that.
it, Busan. I loved it, man. I loved it.
I gotta check it out. I haven't seen it yet, but I heard nothing but great.
Yeah, I thought it was one of the best zombie movies in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
In a long time.
Yeah, I've got to scope that out. Mick, let's get to know you a little bit for the listeners here. How long are you doing stand up?
Stand up 13 years.
Oh wow! And how'd
13.
you start? Did you start in Ireland doing stand up?
I started here in America, Long Island. Yeah. My wife was pregnant with my daughter at the time. My daughter is the same age as my stand up career.
Oh wow!
And I remember thinking like, all right. And this is when I started to go into parent mode, right? And you know, you always hear like parents say to people, to their kids, "You could be whatever you want to be. You know, give your dreams a shot." And I wanted to be a stand-up comedian since I was 5 years old, and I always thought if I have to sit down with my daughter and she says, at the time I worked for Bank of America, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I could sit to my daughter and go, you know, you can follow your dreams, do whatever you want to. And she goes, oh, did you always want to work in a bank? And if I said no, then I'm lying to her, right? You can't. Mm-hmm. So now I said, you know, and fuck it. I've always wanted to be a comedian. I was 5 years old. And I think if I don't take a shot at it, at least, you know, I can be at least a good example of at least giving something a shot, a real shot, you know, not just doing a mic or two and going, I tried, you know, but I mean, like really trying it. So yeah, 13 years.
Wow. And you started out in Long Island, right?
Yeah, Long Island, New York, at Governor's. Okay. I actually took a comedy class.
Yeah, was John Truson who
John didn't teach at the time. John didn't teach at the time. Yeah, I mean the class. Some people like I always admire guys like who are friends of mine who started off. I mean your introduction to stand up was a lot different too. Mm-hmm. You know, you came up through the clubs, but like I've always had like a respect for comics who went up to an open mic for their first time. Like that was their first taste of stand up. And like, because nobody killed, right, the first time, but I was lucky enough to be in a room of 250 people who were all being friends of people in the class, right? So you know you're just full of support, and you had 8 weeks to get 7 minutes right. Yeah, you know what I mean? Well, that's, you know, there's too much fat in this joke, or you know they don't need to know the color of your car in this story, or whatever it was. Move the mic out of the way, like all the amateurs. So I think. The start when you take a class, I would recommend it to anybody taking a class, because if you're not tough, Like an open mic will finish you, will either make you or finish you right there and then on the spot.
Oh yeah, open mics are so fucking dreary. I don't know if they've gotten better or worse. I haven't been to one in years. Briefly, 5 years ago, I ran one for somebody, and I tried to keep it upbeat because I used to go to open mic with Amy Schumer when I started.
Okay.
And she started running, and then she took over the mic, and then she got Last Comic Standing, and we never saw her again. I mean, I saw her around after that, but I
Yeah,
never
of
saw her.
course.
And I would tell people that story, like, shit, my figures fell.
What fell?
My figures, I had like all
Which
the
ones?
Marty McFly, Freddy Krueger. Give me 1 second. Give me one. I'm just gonna pause. We're back. Marty McFly is okay. He's all right. But we gotta do something about his kids. Remember that line? His kids grew up to be assholes.
Yeah.
But fucking I told that because the open mic was just everyone was just miserable, and I tried to keep it upbeat, and I said that, and there's one guy just goes, "It's because if her uncle's the senator, fuck her." And I'm like, all right, you're right. No one makes it on talent. You're right. We're all just gonna fucking not go anywhere.
Yeah, that kind of got more and more as time went on, but that's a different story. I'm not a bitter comic by any means. You know, someone told me the other day that they got a Netflix special because they have so many million likes for lip syncing on TikTok.
Yes, I know that woman. Yes.
And I don't know the person, so I'm not speaking ill of them, but it just I don't get it. I don't know the formula anymore. It used to be I always when I did stand up and the level of jokes I always had, it was always I'm speaking about like it's over. It's not over, of course. It's all on a pause button right now.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, I don't even think it's on a pause. We'll get this. I think it's kind of evolving. We'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I would be saying stuff like, you know, what if my idol, who was Billy Connolly, was my idol,
he's awesome.
My all-time stand-up idol. To watch his stuff now, some of it still holds up, some of it doesn't. Obviously, it's not dated. But I always think, what would happen if he was standing in the back of the room, you know, watching? I remember one time I was in the city. Fuck, I can't remember the club. It may have been. Oh shit, I'm gonna remember it. But a friend of mine, I want to mention his name in case he doesn't want me telling this story, but his idol was Greg Giraldo.
Okay.
Right, the late great Greg Giraldo, and I love Greg. He was one of my favorite stand-ups, and such a nice guy. And he was in the back of the room, and like so, all of a sudden he's doing stand-up now. His idol and hero. The reason why he's on stage is in the back of the room watching him. And he did some joke about being at the mall holding his girlfriend's pocketbook. And Giraldo went, like, during the silence, Giraldo went, ugh, and walked out of the room. And, like, how soul-crushing must that be for your idol to do that? But I always thought, like, if my idol was in the back of the room, what would I, like, so I always raise my level. Like, if if he was watching me do stand-up, would he be entertained? Which is probably not a smart way to do it, but it drives you. So I still don't understand the concept of Snapchat geniuses who are great at editing, at lip syncing, and I mean, if I don't hate on anybody, man, they deserve if they're good at what they do, I think that's great. But giving out specials for them, it's
I don't kind of fault her because I kind of feel like she just fell into it. Like she was trapped in her apartment. She was hosting open mics, I think, up until 2 months ago.
Yeah,
and she was trapped in her apartment, and she started doing lip syncing videos, and people started sharing them. And I mean, if I was making videos where I don't know, I'm dancing with my dog, and they start sharing them, I'm gonna keep making them, right? If if millions of people are watching.
of course.
Now, if I get offered, hey, we want to give you and your dog a Netflix show, I'm probably gonna say yes. I'm also probably gonna know in my head, how the fuck did I get a Netflix show based off me dancing with my dog?
Right.
And but I know everyone's gonna hate me for it. But what are you gonna do? Be like, no, actually, when comedy returns, can I get a Netflix special based off my comedy? You're just gonna be like, give me the Netflix special,
Yeah, and again, I don't want it to come across like I hate her. I'm so happy for her to get the opportunity, right? But okay. It's just what my frustration is, and my curiosity is like what is happening to the industry. So it's not about her by any means.
The frustration is, and I think I feel it too, and I was really feeling it towards the end of before COVID, is that you go on stage and you have a killer set, and the audience comes out and they tell you how fucking great you are, and to some of these bookers and some of these like guys who like make decisions, they're almost like that doesn't even matter. It's almost to your detriment. And it's like, well, you have a club, you have a room. I'm doing a good job. Wouldn't you want me to do that more, or
Right.
wouldn't you want to put me on the like? What are you looking for? And then I'll see people that like the crowd is sitting there, and the crowd looks like they're questioning all their life decisions that got them to this point, and they bring those guys back again and again and again and again, and it's
Because I think they're not looking for repeat business. They're again, I could be wrong on this one. I think they're looking for, well, this 200 people didn't have a good time, but you know what? Fuck it. Tomorrow night there'll be another 200 people. And then and I think that's what they're looking for, as opposed to, I always find when I go on the road somewhere, there's the remote clubs in the middle of nowhere. They're usually run pretty well. Right.
Yeah,
and a lot of comics go on the road and they shit on the towns. And I don't do that. I like the people, but usually because they want those people coming back. Even if there's a headliner there who like, listen, when I headline a club, I'm a nobody. I'm not a name of any reason whatsoever. But when people come back to see me, it means they liked what they saw. Right. So, and I think that's what some of the clubs on the road have, as opposed to some of the clubs. I'm saying some of the clubs in the city. They're just like, yeah, you know what? If these 200 people didn't have a good time, here comes another 200, and they'll always have that 200. They'll always have that 200.
And I think sometimes they book people on potential, which is fine. I mean,
of course,
I've seen comedians who now have a huge fan base bomb their first few months or first few years, but at the same time, it can't be like 9 guys that have the potential to one day be funny. It's got to be some people who are already fucking there. So the guy who has the potential can fucking step up his game. Or the girl who has potential.
Right. And I think I think a lot of it has to, I think a comic really has to, I don't want to say earn their spot, because that sounds very bitter, right? There shouldn't be a length of time when you're in comedy. Like, look at John Panette, right? John Panette went straight to headlining within 5 years, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm not like, again, I'm not the old bitter guy. I refuse to be. I wish everybody well, and I'm glad for people who get these kind of specials. That my confusion is like the industry of where they make that decisions on. Like, I've been on shows with, like, you and I could sit here for an hour and name guys and talk about guys who would just split your sides, right? And no one's ever heard of them.
Don't have anything. They don't give them a second look.
No one's heard of them, and they're the funniest. Like, they're students of the craft. They have spent years perfecting it. They've all got the stories of, the heavy hitters opening for them, the big guys opening for them. But you'll never hear of them. So it's just strange that they go for, like, I think the industry itself doesn't really know what it's looking. I mean, I think too, because they're under pressure as well. So I'm not even, do I fault them too? Like, where does the buck stop,
Well, I remember there used to be like auditions for Comedy Central, and if a comedian was killing and they did a bit of crowd work, the people, the movers, and the decision makers would like just go to their phones, stop paying attention to the comic, because in their mind the comic killed the wrong way. And it's like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Once they have their minds made on you, you could get a standing ovation, and they're just going to argue, well, you killed the wrong way. I killed the right way, I killed the wrong way. You just have 50, 200 people in this fucking room that are going to want to come back.
And then that's your job as an executive or as a talent scout to figure out if that guy just killed by doing crowd work. Now maybe you use your creativity and you figure out how you can use that guy. That's on you. That's for you to find the place for him. That's a talent you don't want to let go.
Because I think, like, there's really, if a comic is going to kill with crowd work, they probably also have killer material. There's only one guy I know that's only good at crowd work and not good at material. I'm not going to name his name. But most comics,
I know you're talking about.
Most comics, if they're good with crowd work, they also have good material. But, sometimes the crowd says something. What are you supposed to do? Ignore the crowd? And when peak comics who do that, like Kevin Pollak, you could have, a guy in the front row could slice his wife's throat and start drinking it, and Kevin Pollak would not deviate from his fucking act. And then I had lunch with William Shatner.
I know guys like that too. Or they just they can't change gears, right? They spend a week on a boat out on a cruise.
Yeah.
And then they go into a club and there's like 80 people there as opposed to the theater for 1,000 people, and they're delivering like they're on a 200-foot stage in front of 2,000 people when you've got 80 people in front of you, and it's like they don't know how to change the gear.
They really don't. It's just it's a wild industry. I do think it's changing. We'll get into that in a second. But Mick, what was your childhood like? You grew up in Ireland, correct?
Yeah, I grew up in Ireland,
So
small
you grew
town.
up in Brooklyn. You just picked up this accent.
Yeah. I thought it would get me a special. So I'm gonna. I think Russian is the new popular one. So I'll do a Russian accent next month.
I think that's what it is.
Is it really? I was just kidding.
No. It is funny how like you're right. Like every other ethnicity, they want to like throw stuff at the industry. Like Irish people, they give nothing to. They're like
They never did. I don't remember Irish. I remember English was a boatload. Australian was was a lot. Indian I think they threw Indian and Pakistani people all together and like, you're all the same.
I think they'd rather hear Irish people like yell, like threaten to beat everyone up, like Conor McGregor. They like that type of Irish.
Yeah. Then they love it. But
Give me a proper beating. Yeah.
But you know what I blame for that though? I blame the Irish people for that. Like because like Sebastian Maniscalco, right? And I've said this all the time. Like the Italian comics. What I mean by Italian comics, their material is only Italian based, right? Mm-hmm. But what I've always said about Italian audiences, they will always support Italian comedians. Irish audiences don't give a fuck about Irish comedians. They will not come see him. The most successful comedian in Ireland, and it could have changed, is Des Bishop, a guy who I work with many times.
Yes, he's pretty. Yes, he gets some people to come out. Yes,
and he's not even from Ireland. Because he's American, and he based his whole act, and Irish people love him for it. So I blame the Irish people for not supporting Irish people. Even Bono said it. Bono said that if fucking Irish people would begrudge you any kind of happiness. It's like they don't want you to succeed.
Yeah, the only person I see, like I know I've seen guys from Ireland make trips to Vegas and stuff, is Conor McGregor, and he's like basically a hooligan. He's basically
he's beating people up. Like he's literally. You can't deny it. You know what I mean? It's not.
But like it's so bad. It's the only guy they'll support. They won't You know what I mean? It's like,
I mean, you can't put on like a U2 song and go, you can go like, that song sucks, right? That's your opinion, but you can't deny that Conor McGregor is kicking the shit out of people. Yeah. Like, you can't go, he didn't win that fight. He's like, no, he did. The guy's unconscious.
Yeah. But how was your childhood?
It was all right, man. I grew up with 2 brothers, 2 sisters. I was right in the middle. Mm-hmm. I was the second oldest. I have a younger brother. My dad was a truck driver, and my mother was just a stay-at-home mother because you could do that then, you could do that. You could,
And what part of Ireland did you grow up in?
Wexford. It's a small town in the southeast. I don't know if you ever seen the movie or read the books Artemis Fowl.
I didn't see the movie because everybody said it was horrible.
It's dog shit.
Yeah.
But the author of that is a good friend of mine. We lived we lived not too far from each other. Owen Colfer.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like it was a beautiful town, very creative. A lot of actors and musicians came from Wexford.
Okay, now I know about BBC in England. Everyone knows about that, but I really don't know much about TV in Ireland. Like, were there a lot of cartoons and stuff on for you when you were?
Yeah, we grew up with the same cartoons you did, but we got them maybe a few years later, right? So I grew up with, as you know, you and I are friends, and I see what you post. So I grew up with He-Man, Thundercats. Battle of the Planets I think I was the only one who was into that. My friends never liked that show. I said He-Man, Thundercats, and then the usual, the small, like the Smurfs and Scooby, just whatever, and the Looney Tunes, and like pretty much every cartoon you got. We didn't get G.I. Joe because I don't think it translated because of the military thing.
Oh wow.
It just didn't. If they weren't fighting the British, we didn't want to know about it.
You're like, we wish Cobra could come to Ireland.
Yeah, but what else? Mask, the Ghostbusters, and like all those movies and cartoons. That I used to love them. Used to love them.
And how about Disney? Was Disney big over there?
Disney was always huge. Disney was massive. For me growing up, let me see. Like, I was born in the late 70s, so it's like you kind of came through, all pretty much every Disney movie you didn't really go to the movie theaters to see them, but you saw them when they came out on VHS. But
yes,
they were you go through all the classics, starting off with Snow White all the way up. And I'm a huge Disney fan. I have the tattoo and.
Oh, what's the tattoo? Tell me.
It's a you can see it, but your listeners can. It's a pirate It's a pirate Mickey.
Oh yes, that's dope as hell. I like that a lot.
Yeah. It's just like it's a
great
silhouette
cartoon.
with an eye patch and a cross and swords.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I've been to Disney World a bunch of times, but it's I just grew up loving Disney, man. Like I'm just a huge Disney fan. Huge Disney fan.
Yeah. Now, were you still now when Little Mermaid and Aladdin all that stuff came out? You were still in Ireland. Was that big over there? Those '90s movies like they
Yeah, it
were here?
was. It was, but it never really had the support of adults,
Like
right? It
over
was like,
here?
yeah, like it's a cartoon. So if it's a cartoon, it must be for kids,
Yeah.
right?
Because over
Whereas
here, the adults started with Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. They were like, "Wait a second, this is not just for kids," and the
yeah,
adults got into it. And I kind of feel like that's why now, when my age, I could sit and talk about this every week. Whereas 20 years ago, they would have been like, "Lock this guy up." Um, but uh, but over there, I guess it didn't. That people were just like, "It's a fucking cartoon" or something.
yeah, that's exactly what it was. And I was like, I actually was accepted into a school in Dublin called Ballyfermot,
Mhm.
which was an animation school. I was going to go to school for animation.
Mhm.
But the school closed down because in Ireland education is free, but the way it works is they'll pay for your education provided there's jobs to go with it, if that makes sense. So like if
Oh
you wanted to be
yes.
an engineer, right, let's say you wanted to be an electrical engineer, so they might have a class size based on how many jobs are going to be available, because they don't want to pay for 700 electric engineers to come out and not have any jobs to go to. So therefore, you're not going to put the money back in. So you're going to have to. So if I came out with an animation degree, the animation studio in Ballyfermot, which was shut down, and they would work on all Disney's work.
Mhm.
Disney they would send over the cells, and all the students would just paint the cells for them for free for experience and send them back. And they shut down. So then they were going to go like, all right, well then why would we pay for people to study animation? And then they're going to move to America, to England or Australia. They're not going to put money back in the well. And that's one of the problems with free education.
You know what? That's a good point. Yeah, because I think people think free education means that when they talk about it here, they think, well, I can go to my college for acting
Yeah.
and get drunk for 4 years on Uncle Sam's tab, and it's like, no, I don't think they're gonna pay for you to be a fucking actor.
Yeah, it's not,
'Cause-
and you got to get certain scores to get in, and you have to maintain all these scores along the way, and
Mhm.
it's not cut and dry. It's not as simple as you think it is. I mean, I
Yeah, I
don't know
think.
how they would do it over here. I mean, but in Ireland,
Well,
you had to score very high to get in.
I think most of these people from Brooklyn, they just think you just show up at Harvard and they're like, it's free, have
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. It's not going to
Yeah,
work like that. If they ever do get free education, it's not going to work like that. You have to justify your place, and the
yeah.
jobs have to be available for. Again, I'm not the one writing the bill. I don't know what rule they're going to make on it, but it would make sense not to just fucking throw money at kids who like, I want to take a year to get to know myself. Like, those fucking idiots. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I know a
I'm,
lot
I'm,
of them.
I'm probably just going to do psychology for a year, and then I'm going to, no, someone's paying for that, you asshole. Like, if my kids ever said to me, I'm just going to do this for a year, like, no, you're not. You're either going to go get a job while you figure out what you want to do, and then when you figure out what you're going to do, you'll do that full steam ahead. You're not going to take a year on my fucking dime to pretend like you think you know what you want to do.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, and you know who knew what you want to do was the bunny rabbit in this movie. Did you now? Are your kids big into Disney?
Huge, yeah, huge fans. My daughter, not so much. My daughter's kind of pulled away from the Disney movies
Mm-hmm.
now, but she's at that age. She's 13, where she's into different things. But my son is all gun ho, and we were both excited when Star Wars and Marvel went over to Disney too.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that has changed the game. I mean, that officially made Disney the kings of the fucking world.
yeah, I mean, you could always debate, which I always do. Like I would always debate, as just to wind people up more than anything, that Marvel was better than Star Wars, and just, it's almost like a Biden-Trump debate, and people will like really get upset with you, and it's just I like to piss people off like that.
Oh yeah. Well, if you want to piss people off, tell them Marvel's better than DC, and then you'll fucking.
Oh, that's another one too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if one day Disney owns that too.
I hope so because they're doing a terrible job with DC, Warner Brothers.
They really
Um,
have.
yeah. So this movie came out 4 years ago. So I know your kids. Kids are third. How old is your son right now?
My son is 10.
and she's 13.
Yeah.
So yeah, 4 years with that age is almost like a lifetime ago. Did you take them to see Zootopia?
Yeah, we went to see. I go to see everything. I'm a big fan of the movie theater, and we went to see that that one in the theater. I may have went to see that one by myself first because I was on the road probably, and when I'm on the road, I go to the movie theater.
Yeah,
and then when I came home, probably I lied about going and just took them. You know what I mean?
and what did you think of the movie? And what did your kids think of the movie when you first saw it?
I loved it. They loved it. It was like, I mean, I'm a big fan of Jason Bateman, and you know, his timing is always great. But of course, the timing in this comes down to the editor and the animators. But they just really captured how great Jason Bateman is, even in an animation. Like it was just, I loved it. It was fantastic. It was just a fantastic movie.
Yeah, you know, the thing I liked a lot about this movie was the thing about like the predators. It handled systematic racism, or you know, like everyone assumes these predators are going to kill you because that, you know, that's what the stereotype is, and they're not. They just want to, like, you know, they just want to live their lives, and it handled like the problems with cops and all this other stuff in such a great way. And in such a way, I think so many of the properties that talk about real issues in the real world miss the mark 1,000%.
Yeah, it shined a light on a lot of, you know what I mean? Not only like just the predators, but the fact of that one scene where Nick goes in with his air quote son to get the popsicle. And it's like, you know, we have the right to refuse who we like, and you know, we don't have to serve your kind if we don't want to. It's like, whoa, like Jesus Christ. Like they were going right down to like one particular breed.
Yeah,
right?
and you know, at first, because it's such a cartoon, you like, oh yeah, that's right, the walrus doesn't have to serve a fox. And then you're like, wait a minute, actually this was a black dude and an Irish dude. This would be a really fucked up scene. Yeah.
Exactly what it was, you know, and then like the cop, you know, who also kind of like, yeah, I get it, elephant. You don't have to serve them if you don't want to. And then when the cop softened up, you know, when Judy saw what was going on, and then she thought like obviously it was a baby. She's like, oh, okay. So like even she had that tough mentality, and when she was softened by the baby. But I loved even the scene in it where like when it all started to happen, and I'm very anti-media. I'm just so, I blame them for a lot of the problems we have in especially in the States today. I really do. But even that one scene where she's trying to gently tell everybody what's going on about predators, she goes, well, even my friends, she goes, wait a minute, our friends are like this too? Like, I mean, how the media put their spin on it.
And the media put the spin that we have to watch out for predators, and which divided the city of Zootopia towards the end. If you haven't seen the movie in a while, or you've never seen it, it's basically, the story is this bunny. What's her name again? Bonnie?
Judy
Hopps. Judy Hopps. She has a childhood dream of being a cop, but no rabbit has ever been a cop. Now, here's the interesting thing. When we saw this, I'm like, why can't a fucking rabbit be a cop? I don't understand. And then the cool thing with this movie is a rabbit is the size of a rabbit, and a rhino is the size of a rhino. So it wouldn't make sense. How would a rabbit arrest a rhino? Because she's just a little like hippity hoppity thing.
Right.
And so it makes sense that a rabbit, but she does the training, she gets hired, she's brought on the cop, and I think they kind of hint that she was hired through a diversity program. Like
they did. The mayor tried to push it through because everyone was kind of complaining that there's not enough little guys on the force.
Yeah, little bunny rabbits. So she gets the job as a cop. They kind of give her like a shitty beat, and she does a meter maid. And then she runs into this woman who lost her husband as a weasel, and she starts investigating what happens to the weasel. And it's
an otter.
Yeah, and it's and her and the fox team up, and she doesn't like foxes because she used to get bullied by foxes in her hometown.
Yeah, and even that like goes to show that was a very like intense bully scene too. It wasn't like the cliche bully scene where it was like, man, he like, you know, belittled her, and then not only that, but he physically assaulted her and left a really bad like a scar on her, which you would never see. I don't know where like in any cartoon they show that.
Yeah, no, he left a scar on her. And you know what's so funny? I watched the start of this movie, and when the first time I saw it, and I thought that was going to be Jason Bateman's character, and I'm like, how is he going to come back from this? He's really going. Wow, like how do they become friends? Like this is like really getting deep. And then I realized, and then once we met Jason Bateman, I realized his Fox character wasn't the same Fox. Then you meet the Fox later, and he's kind of very docile.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was like, this. I don't know how they're gonna become friends with this. I mean, is he gonna rape her? What? How dark is this scene gonna fucking get? But it was.
Yeah, but even Nick was bullied. Even the Fox was bullied. That's why he is the way he is.
Yes, the Fox was bullied. Yeah.
You know. And then the sad thing about that is that when she's bullied, right? That like that's the thing too about like I think kids should definitely see that. And I liked how graphic it was because if you're a bully, you're an asshole, and you got stuff going on in your life. I'm talking about from a kid level, right? Even from a grown up level too, right? There's an insecurity. But if you're a bully as a kid, you can grow out of that, right? You can grow out of that. Your life can get back on track. Your insecurities now become your strengths or whatever. But that person you bullied is still scarred for life.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And so then that's when the guy, I can't remember his name, comes up and he apologized. I'm sorry, I was insecure. And you know what I mean? Like he apologized for being an asshole when he was a kid, but she was scarred for life. Like that, even the guy Nick was scarred for life.
Yeah, he's and it was really sad that that went down, but I was glad they were able to make up towards the end. And I love that because she goes back to town because she arrests the mayor, thinking the mayor's behind it, you know. But you know, like I feel like we're gonna arrest De Blasio. We're gonna find out someone else was behind all this. Idiot. So she arrests. He kind of reminded me of De Blasio, the Lion Mayor, by the way. So she arrests De Blasio, and she gets promoted, and everyone loves her. And then when she kind of inadvertently turns everyone against the predator animals, which a predator animal would be a fox, or it'd be a lion, or a tiger, you know, animals that hunt other animals for food.
That eat meat, basically, yeah.
Meat, yeah. She leaves, and I'm like, well, how are they going to come back from this? And when she runs to the old bully, I was like, genius. This whole movie, I think this is like the best movie they've done in like 10 years from the animation department.
Well, I think it was the best movie they've done in relation to making it like from a genius point of view that wasn't Pixar.
Yeah, because when I saw the iris, I'm like, oh, it's a bunch of animals in a fucking city. Big fucking, what is this, DuckTales 2 or something? Like,
right.
Big fucking whoop. And then like the way they thought it out, the way they had the different towns, and another great sequence is she's chasing, I believe she was chasing a weasel, right?
Yeah.
And she goes through the little people town.
Right.
And she's running like she's almost like Godzilla. And it was just like the proportions of all the different cities and the proportions of the animals. It just made it so fucking interesting.
Yeah, it was like worlds within worlds. You know,
Yeah.
it was so. But I think there's something to be said. I mean, the story was written by 7 different people.
Yeah.
Right. Now, there's a lot to be said about collaboration like that on that level. Right. Usually, you might see a movie written by 1, maybe 2 people, but this one, I mean, the script was written by 2 people, but the whole story was done by 7 different people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, they really. But I think all these, like, I was watching the Pixar special features because I'm doing. Once I get done with Frozen 2, I'm going to Pixar, and most of those scripts, very few of those scripts are written by one person. They are written by a ton of people, and I think that's kind of the way you have to be with animation because animation is a collaborative effort. You know, if I want to make a short film with like you and Laurie Palmentary, I just grab a camera and I hand you to a script and I go and you do it. But in animation, if I'm going to animate that same scene, I have so many people I have to collaborate with that I cannot kind of be like, this is the way I want it go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a lot of moving parts in there, and you have to assign different directors for different parts, and you have to hope that they're all on the same page as you.
Especially with CGI, because you need people that are going to be doing the lighting. You need people that are going to be doing. It's so much with CGI, even more so than hand animation. Because in hand animation, you can still kind of just be like, go and just draw it yourself.
Yeah.
Well, computer animation, you need so many fucking people, especially at this level where Zootopia is. Before we talk more about the movie, I want to talk about some theories I have about these films.
Okay.
And I also want to talk about like the weird thing that Disney did with this movie. There's a lot of I'm so happy you're on it because there's a lot to talk about with this movie. First thing I want you to, and as soon as the movie ended, I was like, "That's such a great movie. I really enjoyed it." Then I realized something very, very fucking weird. Did you notice there were no gorillas in the movie? There were no monkeys. There were no apes. Nothing.
I think now that you mention it, yeah.
And I looked up, and they didn't have them. I have a theory, and now they own the rights. I think this takes place on the same planet as Planet of the Apes. Because if you notice in Planet of the Apes, there's no other evolved animal but the apes. And if you notice, where are the apes? The apes are in the United States.
Okay.
And Zootopia is based off Africa. So my theory is something happened to the world. The apes took over the United States. They told all the other animals to get out. But the apes are like stupid, so their society is like very primitive. But the other animals who all evolved are like, fuck it, we're gonna work together, and they created basically a Zootopia, utopia. The apes don't know that exists.
That's interesting, but then there was no cats in it either, or dogs.
That's because they're in the United States.
Oh, they're all in the States?
They're all in the States, and I think this is like Africa or Asia or something.
All right, that's an interesting theory.
Yeah, because it's like, why are there no apes? And Planet of the Apes, that takes place in the United States. There's the Statue of Liberty. It's clearly, and now they own the rights. The other theory I heard, and this is backs up there in Africa, is that Lion King, Robin Hood, and Zootopia are the story of a society evolving. So Lion King is like right when the world ended. The animals now know how to talk, right? Robin Hood is they're going through their medieval period where they're learning about fire, and Zootopia is now 2020 where they have smartphones and they have
they did have smartphones. She had a PB&J.
Yeah,
was her provider, like AT&T. She had PB&J.
PB&J,
and a carrot on the back of the phone.
What do you think of that theory? That Lion King, Robin Hood, and this are like a trilogy, and they all progress, like the evolution of these animals.
Here's the thing about theories like that. Like I love them. I really love them, and then it makes sense. Like the best one I've heard from Disney is the Pixar theory. I don't know if you've heard.
Oh, that's a great theory. And then when
I don't want to get into that with you now because I'm sure you want to save that for when you go down the line on your Pixar. But that's a crazy one that kind of makes sense. But for this kind of stuff, like it could be, but I don't think. I think they're done by separate companies. I don't think they collaborate.
Well, no. Lion King, Robin Hood, and this movie. The reason they're all part of Walt Disney Animation.
Right.
The same company, the same studio made them. Walt Disney Animation.
Right.
I mean, I definitely think you could connect Lion King to this because the fox in Robin Hood and this fox look very similar. So you could kind of say like those movies are connected.
Well, then you could. What was that one about Tarzan too? How he was related to Elsa.
Oh, the Tarzan
the ship. Elsa? Yeah, if you watch the ship that sunk, that's when her parents went off. They look just like Tarzan. Look like Tarzan's parents.
That would be.
That's one I heard too. That when that ship sank, that was his family.
But Frozen 2 doesn't. But Frozen 2 kind of like because the mother is revealed to have magical powers. Did you see Frozen 2?
I didn't watch it yet.
Okay.
Because it came onto Disney Plus with everything Marvel, and I'm still going through for I think the fifth or sixth time. I'm going through the whole universe. I'm on Civil War again.
I gotta tell you, Frozen 2 really complicates the story.
Really?
That's all I'll tell you. Yeah, it's like
I do want to watch. I saw it actually. I turn it on Disney Plus every day. Let it be if I might watch The Simpsons if I'm eating something or whatever it is. I do see it there, and it's just never the day to watch it.
But my whole thing would imagine if they made a Cinderella 2 in the 70s and they revealed that Cinderella's mom was on the USS Enterprise. It's like you really need to complicate this story that much? Like
yeah.
It's about a girl and now all of a sudden the mom's on a spaceship and there's a giant like what? Whoa.
That's funny.
Focus on what happened to the stepsisters for a second. Calm the fuck down. Like, what are you doing? But that's kind of how crazy Frozen 2 gets. I shit on, ever since I got to like around like Big Hero, Wreck-It Ralph, every episode I shit on Frozen 2. But I can't wait to get to that episode. But yeah, like so there are those theories. Here's the other weird thing, and we're gonna get a little R-rated with this movie. So have you ever heard of the furry community?
Yes. My daughter was a furry for a while, where she made these amazing masks.
Oh, she was okay.
And then she said, like, and I knew kind of like, wait a minute, this isn't one of these. Like, she wanted to go to a convention. Like, hang on a second.
Those get sexual.
Yeah. I said this is not one of these things like because she does follow like younger people who do it, and and they make these videos and they go on. And
I think now there's a subset that it isn't about. Fucking,
yes, and I've watched them like do talent shows and all that stuff, and I'm like, wait, this is not one of these things where people dress up and go fuck is it? Because you're not going near any of that shit. Like I love her creativity of making these things. She's made some remarkable stuff from scratch. But I'm like, yeah, you're not. I'm not. Fucking, I got worried about that for a second. She's out of it now. Now she's just back into drawing again in video games.
Oh, she's making the video. Okay, cool. So the weird thing about this movie is that before it came out, they had a private screening for like for lack of better terms, the Dave Chappelle's and the Dave Attell's of the furry community.
Okay.
The big wigs in the furry community got a special screening, and then they were told to promote the movie in the furry community. And these were people who ran like porn sites and stuff. So that is very funny to me that they courted those people to promote Zootopia, which also meant like, oh, when they were drawing the Shakira antelope, they knew what they were doing. They're like trying to turn these people off.
Yeah, with the big ass and the big thighs.
Yeah, well, even the bunny rabbit had a big ass, I think. For a bunny rabbit.
Well, I figured. I figured a bunny was shaped like that, but her, the gazelle.
The gazelle, yeah.
Yeah, I mean she's a bit unnecessarily bottom heavy, I think.
Yeah.
That's not me saying Latinos all have big asses and that kind of stuff, but I just thought it was funny that they went down that road with her, give her a big ass where everyone else was kind of like, I mean. When you think of sexy rabbit, you think of Jessica Rabbit.
Okay, no, I'm not saying. When I read that, I typed in the character Judy Hop, and don't ever type in Judy Hop or the term is Rule 43 because Rule 43 means there's porn about everything, anywhere.
Okay.
Like, and I typed that in for Judy Hop, and I was like, oh, never mind, because people are very horny for this rabbit and the fox.
Well, I'm going to do it now.
Oh yeah, now you gotta go look.
Now I'm gonna watch it. Like
because
not only just Google it, but when the picture comes, I'm gonna press play on it too. Like I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, because the funny thing is, so many people love Robin Hood, and I never realized so many people love Robin. You ever see Robin Hood when you were a kid?
I grew up on every version of Robin Hood, the books, the TV shows,
the Fox.
Yeah, the TV shows, the movies. So anything about Robin Hood is very big within Irish and English culture.
Oh, that's true. So everyone grew up with Robin Hood. And then when I was doing the podcast, I did some research, and they credit Robin Hood and him, the fox in that movie, being the start of people starting to be like, oh, I want to fuck these animated characters. Let's create a community. And that movie kind of started the furry community.
I remember as a kid watching, like, here's the thing with animation. Like, I remember as a kid watching, my first crush ever was Wonder Woman.
Yes. Actually, she's my current crush. But Gal Gadot, Linda Carter. I like the live action.
No, I'm talking about Linda Carter.
Yes.
Right. And I was 8 years old when I first saw Wonder Woman because it came on the same time. It was a Saturday afternoon. It came on. You had the A-Team came on, the Incredible Hulk, then Wonder Woman, and then there was something I think maybe Airwolf or something came on after that, right? But I remember Wonder Woman being my first, like, what's going on down here? I'm only a boy. This is not supposed to happen. But I remember as a kid watching He-Man and Teela, and I'm being very confused with Teela.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then She-Ra for me.
She-Ra for you, okay, which is He-Man's cousin.
Yeah.
So then you go past that and you grow out, right? You realize, but then like now you're an adult again. No, you didn't go to your adolescence and you're like, oh, Jessica Rabbit just like. What you're like, all right, now am I weirdo that's into cartoons? But then you find out like everybody is into.
Yeah. I met a girl who wanted to have sex with Optimus Prime, and I'm like, how would that even work?
My God.
Yeah.
What was it? What did she like about Optimus Prime?
Is that he took control, that he was like a man, like he was. Like,
oh, I thought it was just like that woman has an obsession with just machinery.
No, that he would be like. Like they would go to him and he would just say, we're going to do it like this. And then they would go do it. And
she's going to take the dishwasher apart and just get in it and just.
And she also wanted to fuck Leonardo from Ninja Turtles, which again, I'm like, how? He doesn't have a penis. I don't know what you would do.
I mean, he does, but like, why him over the rest of them? They all look the same except for
I
the
think
headband.
the leader thing.
That's she has a thing for power.
She has a thing for power. Optimus Prime and Leonardo from the Ninja Turtles, and
Wow.
who knows?
And she was like, how old was this girl when this was going on? When she was a girl?
When she
like
was
a
when she was a little kid, but she would talk like she was a waitress, and we would talk about this was like 10 years ago. She's like, "Oh, Optimus Prime makes me so hot, just that voice," and same thing with Leonardo, and oh my god, I love him, and I was like, okay. And then you don't feel bad about the fact that you like I don't feel bad about the fact, well, I was attracted to Ariel and Jasmine, but at least like those are like normal human being girls. I mean,
right.
not
I don't think I never liked Ariel or Jasmine.
Pocahontas.
Pocahontas
is the hottest one.
I liked Esmeralda.
Yes. I never saw the movie until I started doing this podcast.
Yeah.
I did. Me and Kenny Ryan did the episode, and we were like, we were blown away how. Because the thing about, all right, so like I film a girl in a movie, like a live action movie, and she dances sexy. That's very natural. It's not me. I'm just filming her. It's all her. It's all the girl. And it could be very fast and natural. A girl would be sexy. You're
not objectifying her, right?
But yeah, a girl can just like smile at you and she's sexy. But when it's animation, you have to spend at least a week animating this woman to be as sexy as so everything is
week.
So
it takes I think, what is it, 2 weeks to get 1 second?
Well, like and I'm talking
in
about
that style of animation
where she's dancing in front of Quasimodo, and we were like, these animators must have been so fucking horny that week because she is just really moving. And it's Demi Moore and everyone, and that was back when Demi Moore was like
and I just watched her in G.I. Jane the other night, and like even still, like over her and the animated version, very sexy back then. That's when she was on top.
Well, the funniest thing is Hunchback comes out, and 2 weeks later, Striptease came out, and she's naked in Striptease. And I'm surprised they put those movies so close, and
Yeah, but that was back then. They didn't think like that. You know what I mean?
Back then we just knew, like your parents knew and everyone knew. Okay, if you go watch an R-rated movie, there's gonna be a titty, and we all just accepted it, and we're like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna see Striptease because there'll be titties, and we just accepted that if an actress is in an R-rated movie. Nowadays, it's like, oh no, we have to.
Yeah, they don't show anymore. Now you got to go to television for that.
Yeah, you got to go. You do.
You got to go to TV now for nudity.
Or OnlyFans. Now you got to pay these people to see them naked and stuff. What was your favorite character in the film?
I love Nick. I love Nick in it, and he's not in it long enough, but I loved Flash. That whole scene with Flash the Sloth.
Oh, I was about to say that. That's one of my favorite scenes.
I mean, you can't say like he's your favorite character because he was in that one scene, and then I'm not going to spoil another scene that he's in, but that whole scene, like it was laugh out loud, hysterically funny. Because I'm not going to give it away for people who haven't seen it, but I'm impatient like that. Like I don't have that kind of patience, so I was getting anxious while also laughing at it. It was fucking great. That scene was one of the funniest scenes in any movie. Not just an animated movie, not just a Disney movie, but in any movie. It was fucking funny.
The reaction shots from Judy was so fucking good. Where I kind of like too the dynamic, because usually I feel like in these movies, like the female character is the wise ass and the male character is like kind of hapless.
Right.
Kind of like that the female character is the hero, but she's also kind of like the straight man, and they really would be the straight man and constantly be like overwhelmed. You know what I mean? Like not like she was shown as an idiot, but she's the butt of a lot of jokes.
Right.
But she still is like the hero of the film.
Yeah, she was, and like to me, like, but you asked me, my favorite character was Nick, because it was just Jason Bateman through and through. Everything about him was just funny. He was an asshole. He gave a shit. And he came from a horrific past, right? So he was just like Judy, but like he had everything I guess I like in a hero, right? He had a great origin story. He was turned evil. He wasn't born evil.
Yeah, and he was, and he's very, very likable, very relatable.
Yeah, it really was. Almost like the Joker. He's like that guy that's a villain that was driven to be a villain. He's not like evil to the core.
What did you think of the real villain?
Oh, the real villain in
The
it?
real villain. So there's this little girl who kind of seems like she's like a hipster. She's the assistant mayor, and she's helping out
Right.
Judy. But then we find out she was behind the whole thing to get rid of De Blasio, so she could. I don't like you calling this guy De Blasio, the lying mayor, to get rid of him. And this is kind of like the third Disney movie in a row where one of the good guys is the villain the whole time. They did this in Frozen. They did this in Big
Right.
Hero 6. Now they're doing it in this one. And I was like, all right, how many movies? Oh, also Wreck-It Ralph, they had a secret villain. And I'm like, all right, how many movies are you going to do this secret villain thing? I kind of thought it was interesting, but I also was like, yeah, I kind of want like a real villain, you know?
Yeah, like the old school, like just the bad
Jafar.
guy in, right, the guy in a lair, you know, with the like the
Mhm.
polar bears kind of,
Yeah.
or the Godfather, the little was he a mole?
Yeah, something, yeah, like that. The Godfather ripoff, which I kind of like, but I also was like, I've seen Godfather ripoffs a million times.
It's been
you
done.
guys
That
are
was
better than me.
that was my one thing against that, like where it's that used to be done for when parents took their kids to a kids. It was like a kids movie.
I know.
When, and then it was something for the parents. Like that's, you know, like how many times have you seen that reference or Make You an Offer You Can't Refuse, or from Scarface, Say Hello to My Little Friend, or you know what I mean? And just for the parent to go, oh, they get, oh, good, now it's something for me while I'm here for 1 second. But it, you know, I liked. I think what saved that was his daughter, the Godfather's daughter, which kind of.
Oh, he's a shrew. The Mr.
Oh, is that what he is?
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was a mole, but that's
Arctic
fine.
shrew. Yeah.
Yeah. But I thought for like not having a villain, I kind of like that too, because it's almost like real life too. You know what I mean? It's just people who are desperate. It's not like, you know what I mean? Like it's not like I'm evil with claws and I want to take over the world. I think it came from a desperate person who wanted to get on top by any means necessary. And let's be honest, man, most of the villains in the world are fucking, you know, they pretend to be the nicest people, right?
That's true.
And that's what I liked about it too. But if you're looking for that old school cartoon, as in I'm the villain, you're not going to get it. The only thing I remember thinking at the time, because I watched it again recently, and it was played by what was her name? Does the voice of her?
I'll look it up right now. I have
The
to
girl
pay.
from she used to be on SNL.
Oh, Jenny Slate.
Yeah, and I always thought like, well, that's kind of unfair to Sheep, that because you know what she did with Big Mouth, right?
No, what did she do? I never saw that show. The show Big Mouth.
Big
Oh,
Mouth is a very, 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 very funny show, right? Where she
Mhm.
does the voice of a girl who is half Jewish, half black. And the second the Black Lives Matter movement like happened, like right on day one,
Oh, she left.
after George Floyd, she goes, I will no longer do the voice of someone who's African American, and she was like half the character. And I was like, all right, I get it. It's very noble of you. I understand that, but like, it's a cartoon, you know.
Yeah, I'd rather. You know what? How about you keep doing the voice?
And maybe hold off until this settles
help-
down, because now you've ruined the show because you're one of the main characters. So I just remember thinking like, well, why don't you apologize to all sheep now? Like, because you did the voice of a sheep.
Yeah, my thing is this: keep doing the character, and then if you really care, go out to the protest or go donate to a charity. Throw like a couple of grand at
Right.
a charity, and then keep doing the voice.
I understand if the character is being, you know, racially profiled against, or you're being disrespectful, but you're really not. Like, you're just a character that happens to be half Jewish, half black, and they don't make fun of your Jewishness, and they don't make fun of anyone being black in the show. Like, it's everyone that gets made fun of. It's about these kids growing up, going through puberty in school. Race is not the issue. Race has never been ethnicity, religion. Like, there's all different religions in it. There's Muslims in it. There's Jewish, there's Catholic, and no one is like attacked for any of those stuff.
Mhm.
It's just their sexuality that's attacked.
Yeah, you know, like my nationality is I'm half Irish, half Mexican.
Okay.
Am I only supposed to play half Irish, half Mexicans? Like, how many roles are there for that? Like, if somebody says to me, "You get, we need you to, you're going to be Jewish in the script." Fine, I'm Jewish. I'm not going to be like, no, hire a Jew, or you're going to play a Muslim American. Okay, I'm Muslim American. Like, I'm not like, I don't know. It's just, especially if it's your voice. I don't know. It's just like, it's grandstanding. It's doing something by doing nothing.
But that's what she did. And now, not only are you shooting yourself in the foot, right? I mean, nobody's going to commend you for it. Like, not many people are going to remember you for that.
Yeah.
now you just
the
fucked
same
up
thing.
a
The
good
girl
show.
from BoJack Horseman's like, I wish I didn't play that character. Like, well, the show's already over.
Yeah,
so
I know.
why don't you shut your mouth, because the show's over. You know, you had nothing to say all these years. Like, and if you didn't want to,
Right.
you just said no when you got cast.
And so did Hank Azaria do it for Simpsons. He's no longer going to do the voice of Apu.
Well, I think because that one comic, Hari Kono Blom, who's more made a bitched and moaned, and it was like, dude, come on. I mean,
Yeah, and also the guy from Family Guy doesn't want to do Cleveland anymore.
my thing with Apu is I grew up with a lot of Indian, Pakistani, Bangladesh people, and they were not on TV. I mean, if they're on TV, they're on TV for half a second. We never saw them.
Right.
Simpsons puts Apu on, and Apu is a real person. He reminded me so much of people I grew up with. I don't really think he was a stereotype because of the voice. There's a lot of guys that sound like Apu.
Just like him.
Yeah, but you know what? They don't have as much personality as him. Sometimes you go to the deli and you try to talk to these guys like talking to a fucking wall, you know?
Right.
And Apu really, he had growth. He got I don't know if you remember, but he got married. He had kids. He goes through changes, which a lot of characters on that show don't. And then you're gonna like fucking poo-poo the character to get rid of him. I think they're just gonna get rid of Apu. And to me, it's like that was the earliest, best. It was so nice to see an Indian character on TV being portrayed as like a regular ass guy that hangs out with everybody. You never saw that before, Simpsons. And now it's almost like you're shitting on the character because of your own personal hangups, you know?
Right. And it's not like Apu went through the same struggles as Bruce Lee did, whereas no Chinese, like if they would even get like white people to play Chinese people and they would literally tape their eyes back to make them look Chinese or somewhat Asian. So it's like you're also drawn that way. That's it. It's just a character on like a show. And if anything, Apu was never really the butt of the joke. If anything, what Apu did, and I always think like The Simpsons is a great metaphor for the idiots of America.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. The ones that don't think, the ones that just react, the ones that just, and there's always a mob, right? There's always a fucking mob in The Simpsons where they all show up with literally pitchforks and torches. And if anything, Apu would always be on the other side highlighting that. Right?
Yeah.
I don't ever remember, like, I mean, he was the butt of a joke, but his culture was never the butt of a joke, right?
No, he was always like, I mean, like, they would make fun of him that he runs the store shitty, but they still run their show. It's like, this is not something that came out of thin air.
Right.
The stuff that it's like, this actually is going on in the world. It's like,
but everybody runs a convenience store that shitty. When have you ever walked in? Like, I walked into the cleanest 7-Eleven and they're selling sushi. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's a convenience store. Now, if you had the same 6-piece of California roll in a Stop and Shop, I might buy it. What's the difference between that and your clean fucking 7-Eleven? I'm not doing it. It's like, I bought a banana once from 7-Eleven. I was with a friend of mine. I was in the city. I was at the comic strip. I had shows in between. And I went up. I know the 7-Eleven. Yeah, 83rd Street. Mm-hmm. I got a banana, and my friend went, ugh. I'm like, it's a fucking banana. It's like, it's just because it was a 7-Eleven banana. Like, I was garbage. Like, when they took Apu, they never insulted him. Really, they never really went after his culture. They had a few jokes in relation to it where he went over to his house. And they were listening to his music, and he put on the record, and then they changed the speed on the record and turned it to Tony Bennett. You know
yes, I remember that. Yeah, it was all like just, I don't know, and I get it. Like, Indian people now, a few generations, the newer generations, are cool and stuff, but it's like, I don't know. It's just like
I mean, look, I don't believe in taking money I don't believe in like getting somebody that's not, like, if that was a TV show, right?
I mean, if that was a live action TV show and Hank Azaria was painted brown, I definitely would have been
that's what I was going to say.
I don't think it would have lasted one episode though.
Well, there's a guy and he's a comic, and it's probably going to come across, and I don't know if this will ever come back to bite me, but I don't give a shit. But did you ever watch the show on Netflix, Space Force?
Yeah, with Steve Carell. I could after the first episode, I blew my brain.
There's a Chinese guy in that show. He's a comic. And he told a story on Rogan one time about how his dad is an actor, right? Mm-hmm. And he got a part in like the comedian. I can't remember his name. I'm not being disrespectful. I just don't remember his name. I have a horrible memory. And he got a part in the movie about the Boston bombing. You know, the Mark Wahlberg movie.
Yes.
And so he got on the phone and he was talking to the director, and they had hired a Chinese guy to play a father of a victim who got killed in the marathon. And the guy was cast, and he was doing a read through. And this cocksucker went up to the director and he said, you know, out of justice for the real family that was killed, my father is a real, he was from a different part of China. But because he said his father was from the same part, that they should fire this other Chinese guy and hire his father. I'm like, dude, he was still Chinese just because he wasn't fucking neighbors to the guy. Like, you cost somebody a job just to get your fucking dad in. If that's not, what's it, nepotism? Is that what that's called?
Yeah, that's
right.
Nepotism.
It's not like you got a white guy and did the Bruce Lee thing where you taped back his eyes. Like, you fucking already had a Chinese guy who spoke Mandarin, but you just said because he wasn't from the same village, you fucking spoke up and got some guy fired who would probably auditioned for years and years. This was his first fucking shot. And just because your dad, who does acting as a joke, you moved him forward. Like, and nobody gave a shit about that. I'm like, dude, fucking, that's wrong.
No,
that's wrong.
That is, it's a whole fucking, thank God these people don't live in Zootopia, because they wouldn't last. They'd be like,
yeah, when you watch a show like a movie like Zootopia, like, don't you like, I wish I could fucking live there.
Yeah,
right?
And it's so great to see like all these different, because here's the other thing too. Like, when the fox got crazy, when at the end of the movie, the actual villain injects the drug into the fox, it turns him into his primal state.
Right.
And when the fox got crazy, I was like, oh, now I get why the bunny would be scared of him. Like, it's different. It's not like humans. Like, oh, this is. But they're able to overcome these massive differences. They were able to work together and overcome them. All of them: the fox, the bunny, the lions, de Blasio, everybody. And yet we can't, and none of us have those differences. But yeah, it's such a beautiful movie. I'm wondering if they'll ever build a Zootopia land in Disney World, because I would love to like take a tram and see Zootopia land. That'd be amazing.
I don't know if it was popular enough. It's about the money it makes.
It's so funny because like everything that everybody was talking about this summer, Zootopia is about, with the police, the racism, systematic racism, all that stuff. And this movie is just about it, and nobody talks about it now. And it's just, there's so many interesting little things with the no ape thing, and like, could it be like does Lion King eventually become Zootopia? The Pride Land, so they become Zootopia. There's so many things that you could talk about with this movie that we've talked about, and it's just weird to me it didn't catch on as much as Moana did, which I do not like Moana. What do you think about that one?
I like Moana. I like the soundtrack. I thought the jokes were funny, and I thought there was I think there was so many Easter eggs in that movie that I get a kick out of Easter eggs.
You know what I think that movie's missing? A villain. It doesn't have a villain.
You talking about Moana?
Yeah, I think it needs a Jafar or a Ursula, and then it'll really pop off the screen. She kind of just like believes in herself.
Right.
I need her to fight something. Well, I don't know. I need her to punch something in the face, then believe it. She just believes.
I mean, she's a girl, for Christ's sake. What's she gonna fight?
Well, Jasmine kind of fought Jafar for a little bit. I mean, it's not like she punched him, but she like outwitted him. I mean, she basically seduced him, which was.
Yeah, there's not that many like females that get physical in the Disney world. Originally Disney.
Oh, Mulan.
I was going to say Mulan. That was my next one. But Walt Disney in general, when I read his book, all his early on movies, the villains were females because he believed they were like the most. His mother was vicious. His teachers at school were vicious. They were all females. So if you look at most of his early movies, a lot of the villains are females.
And he writes some motherfuckers as female villains. Maleficent.
Yeah.
The stepmother in Cinderella is such a conniving bitch.
Oh yeah,
unbelievable.
Absolutely.
But she's brilliant. I love her. I love Cinderella. Cinderella is just I think one of the most Perfect.
Well, that's the oldest thing. The bigger the villain, the bigger the hero. That's why I like Superman movies, and I never really picked up the comic because every week the only thing you could take him down was kryptonite. Like you can't get a piece of the moon, but yet anybody can get their hands on kryptonite, right?
Yeah, with Cinderella, she's got 3 assholes gunning for her.
Right.
And the mom is just always manipulating her, and it's a thrill to watch Cinderella eventually outwit the mom and get with the prince.
So it's like it's the bigger the villain, the bigger the hero, right? That's the way it's always been. I never liked Superman. I never liked Hulk Hogan because there was never a big enough villain to take him down.
Well, yeah, that's true, but
But
Zootopia. I really enjoyed it. And let me ask you this: how do your kids feel? Do they look back with nostalgia with this movie, or have they already moved on? They don't care about it anymore.
No, my daughter likes. My son watched it with me recently, not so long ago, and everyone loves the part. With the.
Oh, I love the big fat cheetah. I was about to say that's my favorite character. I asked you your favorite character.
Yeah.
I love that fucking guy.
The characters were great in it. The cast was fantastic.
I don't know why they haven't done a Zootopia TV show for Disney Plus, even if it's 2D animation. I just think there's so many stories you could tell with these characters.
Yeah, again, I don't know if
a Disney afternoon type show with them.
Yeah, I don't know. There's been so many movies that they shouldn't have made sequels to, right? That were dog shit.
Frozen 2.
Again, I'm going to take your word for that one. But even like Lion King 2 and...
Oh, I never saw that. That's coming down the road.
Tarzan 2 and Lilo and Stitch 2 and all these... It's like...
Hunchback 2. Woo.
Yeah, where do you go from there? Like, you told a story already. Like,
Well, that's why he didn't do sequels, Disney, because he's like, well, I ended the movie with Happily Ever After. Then I'm like, 2 days later, they were fighting. I kind of lied to the audience.
Yeah, I know.
And what's the sequel? Well, the prince leave. Whatever. You have to have a conflict. But if you have a conflict, then the first movie was for nothing.
Right.
So better to end it.
Yeah, you're right.
Over.
Do Jim Henson. If Jim Henson didn't know how to end a scene on the Muppet Show, he just blew everything up.
Yeah.
Like if he didn't know how to write something, he went, you know what? Fuck it. Boom. Explosion. These guys are never coming back again. That was it. Yeah.
I think the Pixar people have been the smartest about the sequels that they've done, because their sequels don't invalidate the previous movie's endings, but build upon it. Because I feel like a lot of sequels will did you see the new Terminator?
Yeah, I saw the new Terminator. Yeah, it was decent. It was okay.
I hated the fact that it just made Terminator 1 and 2 those movies were for nothing.
Well, that's the problem with them, right? When you do that, when you take away from other movies, it's like. But when Pixar start bringing out sequels, I remember going, "Oh shit," because Disney haven't have a good reputation for that. And I think apart from Cars 2, their sequels for Pixar have always been great.
Yeah, their sequels build upon it. They don't, but even Cars 2 doesn't invalidate the ending. They don't make it actually Lightning McQueen sucks. He's not a good driver. It's he's still winning championships in Cars 2. They don't and I feel like so many sequels and so many even the new Star Wars films, I kind of feel like, well, I guess they didn't really win anything at the end of Return of the Jedi because the Empire is still here,
Yeah, I also have my two with Star Wars, and also they.
What did they need Darth Vader for? They lasted another 30 fucking years.
And they just remade the other ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, there's a Death Star. Then they made another Death Star. It was the same story.
And now here's
again.
the Emperor. I'm sorry.
And you brought him back again? Really? You just defeated him.
Yeah.
As I say that, I have right here. My son has that scene from Return of the Jedi where Vader kills the Emperor and throws him down.
Yes.
My son bought that piece. My son's a Star Wars fan, and it's. But you killed him, and now what? You cloned him and brought him back. He just shits all over everything that just came.
So what I did was for 2018 and 2019 to get ready for Infinity War, I watched everything Marvel related in chronological order. The TV shows, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Defenders, all the movies, all that, and it was great. It told a cohesive story. There's some things where Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. goes up in its own direction, but more or less everything is kind of tied together. It feels like a complete story, ending with Endgame. And then I did the same thing with Star Wars, where I watched everything. What I mean I watched the 80s cartoons. I watched the Ewok movies. I watched Clone Wars, Rebellion, all that's Rebels. I'm sorry, all that stuff. And I have to say, even though The Mandalorian was good, everything after Return of the Jedi just feels unnecessary. It's
Right.
like you got to the ending. When you watch it in order, you're like, I don't feel like the story should still be going. Like, this is like, why is this still going? Like,
Right.
it feels weird. I watched it in story order. Clone Wars is awesome. Rebels is awesome. But even the cartoon show that takes place during, it was called Resistance, I think.
Yeah, Rebel Resistance or something like that.
So
Yeah, I just think they need to revamp everything and just not redo it, but go down a different road because there's so many planets in the universe. There's so many different stories you could have. There's so many people. There's so many different Jedis you could have. So many different Sith Lords. Like, focus on them as opposed to trying to come back. To the other stories that you've already told that we already.
Yeah, well, I just feel like those the three new movies, they almost invalidate Return of the Jedi. And then, like, the other thing too that I kind of get annoyed with them is that, like, you got all the old actors back, and all I really wanted from these movies was a scene with Luke, Leia, Han, Chewbacca, maybe Lando, and the droids in the Millennium Falcon, and they're gonna go do something, or I don't know, or what, just to see them all back together. And the fact that they didn't have a single fucking scene with all of those actors together was just like really like. And then what's her name died, so you're never gonna have that scene.
Right.
Carrie Fisher. And it's like, well, why the fuck do you bring everybody back if I'm not going to see those group? Because that's why people fell in love with Star Wars, like those group of characters.
I agree.
And just give me 5 minutes of them fucking together, and they didn't. And now you're never going to have it. It's over.
How mad would you be if they did a Jar Jar spin-off?
Actually, I'd probably watch it. It'd probably be better than.
You would watch it, but like, oh my god, it's fucking horrific.
I think I like Jar Jar better than half the new characters. So.
I heard a good interview with Lucas about Jar Jar, and he said that, it didn't get the effect he was going for. But he said, if you were a kid and you went to see the original Star Wars, C-3PO and R2 were for the kids, right?
Yeah, but also C-3PO and R2 were fucking interesting.
Right, but they're saying that a lot of it that the adults were kind of annoyed by C-3PO and R2-D2. The adults who took their kids to see that were annoyed by them. So they're saying that's what Jar Jar was. Jar Jar was created for the kids.
I've never met someone. I was 18 when the movie came out. I never met anyone who said, my whole childhood, I just loved Jar Jar. I saw him when I was 3, and I
Jar
was
Jar
like,
pajamas.
I just had all this Jar Jar stuff, and I talk like him at home. I've never met a fucking guy. And at this point, we would, because the guy would, if you saw a movie when you're 3 years old in the theaters, right now, you'd probably be like 25, 26. Right. And we still haven't met this fucking guy. So who is this kid that he made Jar Jar for? Probably this one kid, and he's like, he's living in shame. He like loved Jar Jar, and then he got
beat to death. He just got beat to death.
He got beat up. Yeah, and then he's like, I better shut up. He has like a secret room with Jar Jar stuff. Because I don't know anybody who said I grew up loving Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, it's funny, man.
Oh, God. So would you? I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but I always ask this at the end of the podcast. Would you recommend parents show their kids Zootopia?
Absolutely. Now more than ever. If you're sitting at home and nothing to do, now more than ever, because it shows people struggle with the law. It shows the law's perspective on it. It shows it's got like really systemic racism.
Systemic racism, yep.
Yeah, it's got
makes it easy for you. It makes it easier for people to understand what that is, because I think some people have a hard time with the concept. Watch Zootopia, you'll understand what people mean by systematic.
Now don't ruin it and pause it and turn to your kids and go, "See, kids, this is what's happening." Just let them
let it end.
Let them see it for themselves. Let them see it, because kids will just address that. For them, they'll see it themselves. They know what's right and wrong. Don't fucking be their conscience for them. Don't be their Jiminy Cricket. Just let them figure it out for themselves. But I highly recommend this movie. It's one of the funniest. It's one of the best stories, and I absolutely it's one of my favorites.
There's so many things. Like I really do think TV and movies can teach kids valuable lessons. The first time I ever heard that someone was gay was on an episode of I think Too Close for Comfort. You ever see this show?
No.
Okay. Well, like he found out his friend was gay. He got weird, and then they became friends again. But in the commercial break, there's a commercial break where he's like, "Oh, I don't want to hang out with you anymore. You're gay." So I go to my mom. What's gay? My mom told me what gay is. I was like, "Oh, okay." Went back to the show. He accepts his friend. He's like, "You know, I don't care. You're gay. You're my friend." And then I'm like, "Yeah, you're not supposed to hold that against people." And I got that in 20 minutes. And I feel like, people go like, "Oh, kids watch too much TV." Da, da, da. I think under the right circumstances, TV and movies like this, they can teach you lessons and they imprint on you when you're younger. 4 years old, I'm imprinted. It's not a big deal if your friend's gay. It's imprinted on me by 20 minutes of TV. And I think a movie like this can imprint a lot of shit into kids' heads. Hopefully it's not I want to fuck the rabbit, because that would be kind of weird.
Yeah, right. That's the one takeaway that you take is just leave your animals alone. Just let them be animals.
If your kid's like, "Oh my God, that little rabbit cop is so sexy," just immediately lock them up.
Just give them carrots, occasionally clean out their shit out of their hutch, and just leave them alone.
Hopefully he learns more about like how to treat people. Mick, where can people, if people want to follow you on social media and stuff, where can they find you? And I know you have a podcast too.
My podcast is Cheaper Than Therapy. I'm on everything, all the major platforms for that. But on my Instagram, I don't really go on social media anymore. I'm kind of sick of it all. It's nothing but hate now. So I'll come back in a bit to that. But it's down the road. I'll come back to that. You can find me on there. I'll have posts. But on Instagram, I'm just Mick Thomas Comedy. And Twitter, I'm Mick Thomas. Facebook, Mick Thomas. You can find me there.
All right. And if this is your first time listening to podcasts, because I know every movie has like fans that haven't listened before. So if you're a fan of Zootopia or Mick Thomas or fucking people fucking rabbits, and you just tuned in today, we've done an episode from Snow White to this film, all Disney movies in order. Take a listen. Each episode has an amazing comedian that you're going to learn to love, and we discuss the movies and everything about them. Next week is Moana with Mia Faith Hammond. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Goots' Disney Pod. Also follow us on Twitter, Instagram at Goots' Disney Pod, and follow me. Just follow me. I'm a funny fucking guy on Twitter and Instagram, Ray Goots. And and you know what? This comes out I think the first week in October. I'll be having Mick. You want to do my Halloween show?
I would love to, man. Just give me the details. I'll be there.
Yeah, so follow me. You'll see the poster. You can meet Mick and you can meet the Goots and listen to us do stand up.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much for listening, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me, Ray.
Thank you, brother. We'll see you next week with Moana.